If you've had to explain more than once why your mornings are blocked off, then you're wasting your time and attention on something that you could have already solved. A boundary that you have to constantly describe is something that you will forever be enforcing manually. The boundary that holds is the one that doesn't make the time available in the first place. Now, in order to understand how to apply this effectively, it's important that you understand the difference between maker work and manager work. This is a concept that I picked up from Paul Graham years ago, and I've applied it and shared it with every single team that I've worked with since. Every single time we implement it with a client, we see a huge boost in productivity across the entire company. Essentially, makers are people who create things. Think designers, engineers, writers, people who need to be in a flow state so that they can do their best work. Makers need uninterrupted time because the type of work that they do requires a tremendous amount of reasoning and focus. Managers are people who direct and make decisions. They need the specific context around the decision in order to make those decisions quickly and to effectively direct the business's resources. And so managers should optimize for as many decisions as possible. For them, they shouldn't aim to have a single massive block in their calendar that requires deep reasoning. Instead, they should have their calendar split up into smaller chunks with each chunk dedicated to individual decisions. Now, usually that comes up in the form of meetings, but to be honest, it's any kind of individual session that can be chunked up and describes the individual context that they are currently digesting in order to make that one decision. And whether they're getting that context and information through a meeting, through a memo, through a Slack message, it doesn't really matter so long as they're doing that as many times a day as possible. Because especially in the age of AI, where everyone now has access to these incredible tools that can do all sorts of things for us, I really believe that one of the biggest bottlenecks that I see in business today is coming from us. And it's because these tools can operate far faster than what we can digest in terms of the information that's needed in order to make the next decision and how these tools should even proceed. Now, the problem that shows up with maker and manager work is that as an operator, a leader, a business owner, you will need to wear both hats at any given time during the week. There will be times during the week where you'll need to be both the manager and the maker. You will need to take on meetings. You'll need to direct resources. You'll need to manage the teams that your company can continue to run, but you will also need to have dedicated time and windows for working on the thing that will grow your business the most. Now, whether that's strategy, research, or actually creating something depends on what your business actually needs and whether you're the best person in the business to actually handle that work. And so I solved this problem and operationalized this concept into my business by first getting a clear understanding of the one thing I'm actually going to be focusing on, the single highest leverage move that I can make to grow my business. Then every single week, I block out the specific moments in my calendar ahead of time for that deep focus maker work. Now, for me, my best hours are in the morning, and so I set the hours between 4:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. as the bare minimum I give myself for this type of work. Now, the rest of the time is available for manager work, but I don't just allow meetings to just show up on my calendar during the rest of my day. Instead, if a meeting is actually required, I always aim to backfill it on my calendar. For example, if someone on our team wants to have a meeting with me, I don't just have them throw a time on any slot that's available. I try to place the meeting as late in the day as possible, and I continue to do that for every single meeting that comes up. This way, I'm able to compress as many meetings as possible towards the end of my day, which more often than not leaves me with multiple extra hours for more maker work, which I then use to grow the business faster. Now, you might be hearing all this and thinking, well, I already do that. I block out my morning and I still have to constantly defend my mornings. And you might be right, but defending your morning is simply just a fresh decision that you're still making over and over and over again every single time somebody asks. It's still a conversation that you have to spend energy winning every single time. But if you book from the bottom of the day and work your way up instead, the thing that disturbs you the most during your best hours is less likely to land in your morning. Now, if you want to get even more leverage from this tactic, you can actually apply this approach across your entire company. Because as an AI engineer and someone who's applied this in my own company and with our own clients, I can guarantee that if you implement a culture that prevents managers from setting meetings during your team's maker time, you will see that projects and initiatives will be completed a whole lot faster because they will have the uninterrupted time that they need to work on the things that they're best at. I highly encourage any leader or manager watching this to move your daily stand-ups to the end of the day, because if you're a maker and let's say you get to work at 8:30 in the morning every single day and you have a stand-up at 9 a.m., then you don't really have any time to get into deep work before the actual stand-up happens. And if that stand-up happens to go on longer than it's supposed to, and it usually does, you might come out of the meeting and it's already 10 a.m., which means that you now only have 2 hours before it's time for lunch. And then immediately after lunch, you have another team or another manager adding another meeting on your calendar for 1:30 and then another for 3 p.m. And it basically just means that you're not really going into any type of deep work for your entire day. And your best hours, the time that your brain works at its peak capacity, are already long gone. The problem for makers is that if you constantly split their attention during their best working hours, their productivity will decrease. In fact, there's a study from the American Psychological Association that shows interruptions for deep work decreases productivity by 40 to 50%. which means that if you have a team of makers that's working on a project and each project brings you $10 million and each could be completed in 6 months, but because your team is only working at 50% capacity, they're taking 12 months to complete, then you're probably losing about $10 million per year from other projects that they could be working on. But if you flip it so that you hold your stand-ups at 4:30 in the afternoon instead of 9 in the morning and backfill any other meetings of the day, your team can genuinely get 2 to 3 times as much deep work in, which for you means more projects are completed in less time with fewer resources, and the business grows faster and you just make more money. And this doesn't just benefit the makers. For managers who are responsible for decisions and allocating resources effectively with the best possible strategy that will give the best leverage for those resources, every decision that they make now has up to 2 to 3 times as much attention and focus dedicated to making it a reality, meaning everyone is able to do their job better. And what's cool is that if it becomes a part of the company's culture and people understand why it's important because they've seen it benefit them and their own work, they'll be more likely to respect the time that you set aside for yourself. Changing what your calendar offers takes just 4 settings, and you set each one of them once. Now, first is that you block out your best hours as busy and recurring before anything else gets scheduled, because an open slot is an invitation. Now, second is to open your booking link and reset what it offers. It should never offer your best hours of the day, and the first slot that it does offer should be the last one of the day. Now, third is to shorten the default meeting length that your calendar hands out to 15 minutes, because whatever the default is, that's what everything becomes. So if you're having default meetings that when someone clicks on it, it's a 30-minute or, God forbid, like an hour-long meeting, that's what all of your meetings are going to be. And so if you have a meeting that could be anywhere between like 5 to 15 minutes, compress it to that, make that the default. And if someone needs more time, they will get more time. And fourth, add one question required on every single booking form, whether it's internal or external, so that you can actually filter out meetings that might be relevant or might not be relevant for you. For every internal facing booking page, you force your team to answer, what problem are we actually trying to solve and what decision do you need from me? That question does 2 jobs before you ever have to read the answer, because writing it down forces the person to work out whether they even need you in the first place, and most of the time, that alone kills the request for the meeting, because the person realizes that they themselves can't even communicate that there's an actual problem, or that they don't even need you to make a decision. And so open your booking link right now and look at what it offers. If it offers your best hours, then the change isn't in place yet, and you're still going to be defending those hours every single day, every single time someone asks for it. A boundary that you have to defend is a decision that you will have to make again and again, week after week, forever. But a calendar that never offers your best hours eliminates the need for that decision entirely, and the work that you already decided matters most will get the hours where you are at the sharpest and that you are operating at the peak capacity that you can offer. And real quick, before you go, if you run a business in a regulated industry, you're doing $3 million a year or more, and you're tired of feeling like all the time, energy, and resources you're putting into your business just isn't giving you the growth that you want, I'd like to give you a free gift, because every business is held back by one real constraint, one single bottleneck, and yours is no different. There is one thing that's bottlenecking you from hitting your goals, and although it might feel like 100 different problems, whether it's the leads, the margins, the work while writing on a few people you feel like you can't replace, but underneath it all, it's usually just one bottleneck, and unfortunately, it's almost never the one that you'd guess. And so here's my gift. We'll find your number one constraint and tell you what's the best way to fix it, whether it's AI or something else entirely, all for free. See, over the last 7 years, my team and I have spent more than 17,000 hours putting AI to work across more than 15 regulated industries, places where a single mistake can cost millions or worse. And in the process, we've delivered over $60 million in measurable value across lower costs, better margins, more revenue, and especially higher enterprise value. Oh, and if you're wondering why it's free, well, it's the best way for us to understand your business and to tell whether your constraint is even best solved with AI. It's no pitch, no pressure. Worst case scenario is you spend about an hour with us, we do all the work, and come back and tell you that your constraint just isn't best solved with AI, and you still walk away knowing the one thing holding you back and the best options to fix it. Just go to alreadybuilt.ai/strategy or click the link in the description, put in your business information, and we will pinpoint the one function of the business most likely hiding your constraint, hop on a short call with the person responsible for that function, and in 2 days or less, we'll hand you the one thing holding you back named in a single sentence and the best way to fix it, all for free.